Shocking LAPD standoff, inside the 3AM suppression of a barricaded suspect. The night was thick with tension, shadows dancing dangerously along the streets of East LA. At the haunted hour of 3 a.m., when the world lay silent, chaos erupted. Screeching sirens cut through the stillness, a harbinger of dread. The LAPD was in full force, lights flashing, an electrifying pulse of urgency. They had cornered a suspect, a man engulfed in mystery and fear, barricaded in a rundown house where peeling paint whispered stories of abandonment. Everyone within a 5-block radius was wide-eyed, breaths held, and hearts racing. Inside that house, darkness shrouded the suspect, a figure with the fear of the world weighing down on him. Windows boarded shut, each crack in the wood acting like a tiny prison. Did he have hostages? Was he armed? The question spun around like a cyclone in the minds of the crowd. One thing was clear, this was no ordinary standoff. The air was thick with desperation, and anticipation rippled through the crowd like an unseen current. The crack of a twig snapped them back to reality. Voices whispered in hushed tones. "What is he doing in there?" A woman muttered, trembling. A man clenched his fists, the tension practically oozing from his skin. This wasn't just an arrest, it felt bigger, heavier. The police negotiator attempted to reach out, his voice calm yet grave. "We want to help you, let us talk." But the silence from within was deafening. As officers adjusted their positions, a sudden movement in the window made everyone gasp. Was it him? Or something else entirely? The rumors shifted like the shifting shadows. A low hum of fear rolled through the crowd, a reminder that fear often breathes life into the darkest intentions. Faces were set in stone, eyes darting between the house and the police. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back at the scene, a sudden flash of movement caught the police's attention. A figure blurred past the window again. Gasps echoed through the crowd, hearts pounding in sync. The tension climbed as anticipation crackled in the air. What was happening inside? Voices rose in speculation, fear etching deep lines on their faces. In the distance, a dog barked, adding to the chaos. Then came the boom, the sound of an explosion. The world seemed to tilt. The street erupted into shouts and movement, but through the chaos, the burning question lingered: who was really in control of this standoff? The crowd leaned in, ready for the inevitable next twist, as the night stretched on with secrets yet to be uncovered. As the explosion reverberated through the air, the night morphed from tense anticipation to chaotic frenzy. Flames flickered ominously in the shattered windows of the dilapidated house, sending sparks into the dark sky like lost souls searching for freedom. The crowd erupted into a chorus of screams, scrambling back as smoke billowed out, thick and suffocating. Fear gripped every spectator, heart rate skyrocketing like a runaway train. "Is he alive?" Someone shouted, their voice trembling. The question hung in the air like a noose, too heavy to bear. Officers shouted commands, their voices cutting through the chaos like a hot knife through butter. "Back up. Everyone, move now." They formed a unified line, shields raised, eyes darting toward that house of horrors. For them, every second was precious. Time weighed heavily as they weighed options. What kind of threat lay within those walls now? As they pushed through the crowd, the negotiator's voice crackled through a loudspeaker, calm yet desperate. "We just want to keep you safe. Come out with your hands up." Silence met his plea initially, then a heartbeat later, an agonizing moan escaped from somewhere inside. A collective gasp slipped from the crowd, punctuated by the whimper of a child. Their eyes widened with realization. Was there someone else in there with him? Hosts of thoughts flooded to mind, families whispering in the back of their heads, what if the boy was trapped inside? The air grew thick with suspense. Officers struggled with the decision to breach or wait. He could hurt them, we can't risk it, an officer muttered, face twisted in conflict. The situation spiraled further as shadows flickered beyond the smoky haze, weaving a dangerous dance between life and death. Then the atmosphere shifted. A figure emerged from the haze, outline barely recognizable against the flaming backdrop. The crowd gasped in unison as the figure staggered out, stumbling through the ash like a ghost. Dark clothes, disheveled hair. Was it him? Was he hurt? The negotiator's eyes widened in terror as he realized the truth. Get him medical help, he yelled, a new urgency in his voice. But as the figure drew closer, everyone's stomach dropped in unison. His hands, stained crimson, trembled weakly before him. "Mommy," he cried, gasping for breath. Confusion swept through the crowd, but suddenly one woman broke free, rushing forward despite the police's desperate shouts. The boy collapsed, and she dropped to her knees, cradling him in her arms as relief battled horror on her face. "What happened?" she whispered, eyes brimming with tears. Before he could answer, sirens wailed louder, drowning out his voice. The atmosphere shifted again, thickening with a new deathly promise. Who else was inside? Was the nightmare far from over? Movements exploded as tactical teams prepared to storm the building, a sense of dread twisting in everyone's guts. Time hung heavy in the air, each second echoing with unyielding suspense. Would they find more victims? Or was the chaos just beginning? As shadows moved stealthily in the darkness, another deafening boom echoed from within, followed by a piercing scream. The crowd reeled back, holding its breath as the realization sank in. This standoff was spiraling dangerously out of control. What secrets lurked behind those crumbling walls? The night was far from over. The explosion's aftermath enveloped the scene in an unbearable tension, each breath of smoke filling the air like a sinister promise. Sirens screamed their sirens, human fears sounding like a twisted choir in the distance. The crowd, now rooted in a mix of horror and intrigue, became a living organism, shuddering, gasping, and reacting in sync. "Stand by!" an officer barked. Weapons were drawn, and adrenaline surged throughout the tactical team as they took their positions, poised to crash through the door. The negotiator glanced back at them, his expression a mix of determination and dread. They all felt it, the weight of uncertainty. The boy's bloodied hands marked a question that spiraled in their minds: what darkness was still lurking within those walls? Another tremor rippled through the building, more violent this time, a jarring reminder of whatever chaos still raged inside. The sound of something, the angry shattering of glass, cut clean through every anxious thought, plunging them deeper into that pit of dread. Go, go, go! The command splintered the air, and the tactical team leaped forward, crashing through remnants of burnt wood. The blast had left a gaping entryway that led straight into hell. It was dark, the stench of smoke thick, mingling with something far more grave, something rotten. Inside, the scene was nightmarish. Furnishings were upturned, debris strewn like forgotten dreams. Terror dripped from shadows each time they moved, an oppressive silence punctuated only by the crackling flames behind. The lead officer stepped carefully, his flashlight beam piercing through the haze. It illuminated a hallway smeared with ash and eerily littered with children's toys. His heart raced. Could there be more kids trapped inside? "Shit!" he whispered, barely able to choke it out as his mind raced with the possibilities. As they moved deeper in, moisture gathered on the back of their necks. Suddenly, a muffled sound echoed from overhead, followed by a sickening, rusted thud. Looking up, everyone froze. The crowd held its breath. What was that? "Check upstairs," the lead officer commanded. They could hear lingering gasps from the crowd outside, their anxious murmurs crawling under the officer's skin. This wasn't just a mission anymore, it was becoming a rescue. Up the stairs, each creak echoed like a gunshot, amplifying their fear. The officers pushed forward, lighting their way until they reached a door at the end of the corridor. Another frantic thump came from behind it. Live or dead, something was moving in there. On 3. He breathed, sweat pooling in his palms. The officers exchanged brief glances, fear weaving tightly between them. 1, 2, 3. They kicked the door in, splintering the wood as it flew open. The sight struck like a physical blow. In the far corner, encased in shadows, a figure crouched down, hunched and trembling. A flicker of movement revealed a young girl, her wide eyes reflecting pure terror, clutching a faded blanket against her body as if it were a shield. "Stay back!" she cried out, raw panic spilling from her voice as she shrank into the corner, bloodied fingerprints bright against the dingy wall. The lead officer held up his hands, breathing hard, trying to mask the dread clawing at his chest. "We're here to help you," he said softly, his heart racing for her safety, knowing she wasn't the only one in peril. "What about my brother?" she shouted, a new wave of despair crashing over her. The officers glanced back at each other, unspoken fears flooded their minds. This wasn't just about moving forward, it was about what lay behind them, maybe even a deeper horror creeping in the shadows of their own making. "Where is he?" he pressed, desperation starting to seep into his tone, unaware that outside, the crowd's murmurs had escalated into frantic shouting. "Mommy's gone," she cried, the fractures of her voice echoing in the cold air. In that moment, the world seemed to close in on them, the fire, the screams, and especially the unanswered questions. What truly happened here? And where was the boy, in the distance? Another crash split the air. This time, it felt personal. The chaos hadn't reached its boiling point yet. The night was still thick with secrets, and somewhere in that burning darkness, the nightmare was far from over. The girl's eyes darted around the room, panic spilling from her like spilled paint. The officer took a cautious step forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "We need to find him. Can you tell me where he is?" Her gaze turned wild, focusing on the shadows that clung to the corners of the room. He's hiding. You have to find him." Behind her frightened pleas, the darkness seemed to pulse, thickening like a storm. The officer's gut twisted. Time was against them. "Listen to me, breathe," he murmured, hoping to bring some stability into the whirlwind of her fear. "Did you hear that?" Another officer whispered, straining to catch the slightest sound above the crackling flames. Every creak in the floorboards felt like a warning. The lead officer's hand gripped his radio, heart pounding. "We need backup, and we need it now." He turned back to the girl. Her lips quivered, and he could see the way her tiny fingers desperately clutched the blanket. "Is your brother in the room with you?" he asked. Silence hung heavy, wrapped in her terror. "No, he's outside," she mumbled, her voice fading like an echo in a cave. "But I can't go out there." Another crash erupted from somewhere deeper within the building, louder this time, more ferocious, filled with a threatening energy that sent a chill down his spine. The officer felt the blood drain from his face. "We have to move. We can't stay here." "No!" she shouted, suddenly fierce. "He can't be alone." Desperation clawed at him. "Listen, we can save him together. But we need to hurry." With a determined thrust, he reached out, trying to grab her hand. But she recoiled sharply, her voice like a dagger slicing through the air. "No! Don't touch me." The officers exchanged worried glances, realizing that the girl wasn't just afraid of what lay hidden in the dark, but of the unknown threats possessed by those who were meant to protect her. "Okay, I won't touch you," he said, stepping back as he fought against his growing anxiety. "Just tell me where your brother is hiding." "I can't," she cried, tears streaking down her dirt-smudged cheeks. "He'll get hurt if you try to find him. You have to trust me." Seconds morphed into eternity, the world outside the room devolving into chaos. Sirens wailed, mixed with the panicked voices of those gathered beyond the door. "I promise we'll keep you safe," he insisted, voice steady despite the nerve-wracking uncertainty. "But I need to know where he is." Just then, another shuddering noise echoed through the structure, this time a series of crashes, a haunting symphony followed by a malicious howl that twisted his stomach into knots. The girl screamed, her voice piercing through the chaos like a knife, as the walls themselves seemed to tremble in response. "Get out!" she shrieked, panicked eyes wide with wild disbelief. "He's coming." "What do you mean?" The officer felt the rush of adrenaline surge in his veins. "Who's coming?" But before she could reply, the floor whined beneath them. A loud rumbling split the air, a pealing sound as if the house itself was compromising its integrity. The officers exchanged frantic glances, understanding that their time was rapidly running out. "We have to move." The lead officer spat, his heart racing as he turned to the team. "We're not leaving until we get that boy." With renewed determination pounding in their chests, they surged towards the door. The girls scrambled back, eyes brimming with tears as they all felt the walls closing in, the figure of what lurked in the shadows bleeding into something they could not see, and certainly could not face. "Do you understand?" He pressed desperately, his voice layered with urgency. "You must trust us. We can help." In that moment, the ground erupted beneath them, a deafening crack punctuated the room, more than an explosion resonating within. Splintered wood flew, and darkness engulfed, cementing the truth that nothing would ever be the same again. As he fought against the chaos, the officer couldn't shake what emerged from the shadows. Was it the boy? The girl's terrified scream echoed in his mind, mixed with all the unanswered questions hanging in the air, swirling like smoke from the flames behind them. And then everything went black. What awaited them in the shadows? The darkness enveloped them, an oppressive weight that stole away the warmth of hope. For a moment, everything blurred into a confusion of sharp sounds and frantic breaths. The officer's heart raced as he fought to pull himself from the depths of blackness. There was an ache in his chest, a calling. Something deep within urged him to find the girl. Then, an urgent whisper gripped the silence: "Help!" Fingers of light crawled through the darkness like timid rays of dawn, illuminating the room just enough for him to see the girl and the jagged remnants of the wall where it collapsed. The shadows writhed, and panic clawed at his throat. He pushed himself up, his heart pounding like a drum in his ears. "Are you okay?" Her figure huddled in a corner, small and trembling like a leaf in a storm. Tears glistened on her cheeks as she clutched a dusty stuffed animal, a silent anchor in a whirlwind of terror. "He's coming," she gasped, every word laced with fear. "No, no. We need to get out of here." He scrambled to his feet, forcing his thoughts to focus as the smoky air filled his lungs. Memories of backup calls and caution flooded in, but all that mattered, right now, was getting her to safety. With restraints slipping through his mind, he approached slowly this time. "I promise, listen to me. I can help you find your brother, but I need you to tell me where he is." She shook her head violently, the doll slipping from her grasp and landing with a soft thud. "You don't understand. He's not safe with you. He..." Her voice broke, revealing layers of fear that clung to each syllable. "He can hear you." A chill washed over him, pooling in his stomach. "Who can hear me?" He pressed quietly, trying to peel back the layers of her distress. The girl's eyes jumped to the door, wide with dread. The thing that's watching. It knows." It felt as if time itself paused, the air thickening. He could barely breathe. "What thing?" But she only shook her head, casting her gaze down as if she might erase her response by denying it out loud. The world around them snarled again, a terrible force vibrating within the walls. The screams echoed, those tortured sounds. A faint memory of shrieks tangled with her warning. The thought sent ice through his veins. "Stay close." Just as they shifted, the door swung open with a splintering crash. Startled, the officer spun around, bracing himself as figures filled the frame. Shadows silhouetted from outside, and he thought he'd been saved. But as they stepped in, his heart sunk. "Get down. It's dangerous." An officer shouted, but the urgency was swallowed by chaos as the figures lurched towards them. "No. Not them. No." The girl screamed, pitching herself between them and the threatening shapes. The lead officer's pulse raced, seeking the girl's gaze once more. "Please. Please. Help me understand what's happening." Suddenly, the diminishing light turned a crimson hue, headlights from outside slashed into the darkness. In the distance, sirens shrieked, but they were drowned out by a monumental crash from outside, followed by a gut-wrenching howl. The girl cringed, eyes darting to the shadows again, her posture rigid with terror. "It's going to come," she cried, her small voice trembled like a fragile bird. "You have to listen to me." Heart aching, he took a step toward her, but a chilling realization gripped him. The figures behind him, the backup officers, hadn't come for a rescue. No, they were part of the encroaching terror, an extension of something malevolent, something she dreaded. "What are you?" he whispered, as the shadows deepened around them, merging with the creeping dark, closing in on their sanctuary. The girl's beleaguered eyes searched his, and in that moment, something shifted. She began to tremble more violently, her voice erupting with a haunting urgency. "If you don't stop, it will find you. You won't survive." A suffocating silence cloaked them, growing heavy with dread, as the atmosphere pulsed with an unspoken truth. They were not just in danger from the shadows that raged beyond the walls, the monsters themselves crept closer, ready to unveil terror beyond imagination. The officer's instincts screamed at him, but clarity was slipping away as shadows spilled forth, rising like smoke, casting dread into every corner of his mind. What kind of monster had they awakened? And could they somehow find a way to escape the twisted reality surrounding them before it consumed them whole? The chaos was a storm, battering the edges of his sanity. The figures behind him, his supposed allies, were no longer trusted. Fear wrapped itself around him like a vice as he glanced back at them, searching for some hint of humanity in their expressions. But their faces were hollow, eerily calm as they advanced towards him and the girl, a silent army possessed by an unseen force. "No!" the officer shouted, stepping in front of the girl, defiance igniting within him. The air felt electric, charged with the weight of unsaid words and restrained violence. "You stay back." She gripped his arm, digging her nails into his flesh, her small frame tremoring. "They're not who you think they are. Please." Her voice broke, each word heavy with desperation. "Listen to me." Behind him, one of the officers sneered, a grotesque smile curling at the corners of his mouth. "You don't understand the stakes, do you? The darkness requires sacrifice. It's how we keep it at bay." The officer felt his stomach twist, a nausea that coursed with the undercurrents of dread racing through him. "What do you mean?" He glanced quizzically at the girl. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the shadows clinging to the walls like phantoms. "Get her out of here," barked another officer, but his voice slipped into a guttural growl, harsh and distorted. "Only one can escape. Only one can live." The realization hammered into the officer. They weren't trying to save them. No, this was a grotesque lottery, and they were the tickets. His mind reeling, he pushed the girl behind him, keeping her shielded and safe. He needed to think. The echoes of shrieking cries rattled his memory, he had heard them before. "Enough!" he shouted, locking eyes with the lead officer, who seemed to absorb the chaos, his demeanor caging all reason. "What the hell is wrong with you? You're supposed to protect us." The lead officer chuckled darkly. "Protection? No, my friend. It's about appeasement. This thing, it thrives on fear and blood. You won't understand until it's too late." Panic flooded the officer's chest. The light flickered again, casting them in a hellish glow, shadows dancing with wild abandon, whispering secrets of dread. The girl's grip tightened on his sleeve, her breath hitching as she squeezed her eyes shut, as if she could block out the horror around her. Listen to her. It's the only way. He turned back to the girl, desperation clawing at his throat. Tell me everything. Where is your brother? I can't, she sobbed, trembling. He's hidden. He's safe from them, but they'll find him if you don't help me. The darkness writhed. It felt alive, ready to pounce on the first glimmer of weakness, eager to consume them whole. It dawned on him that they were running out of time. With every heartbeat, he could feel the tendrils of despair tightening. We have to go. Now. A loud crash echoed from the far end of the room as the shadows surged forward, twisting and shifting, morphing into shapes beyond reason, glimpses of eyes that gleamed with menace, teeth that jagged, hungry for flesh. The officer felt his heart drop. He needed a way out. Over there. He pointed to a shattered window, moonlight filtering in through the jagged glass. They could slip away. We have to go through. But the darkness roared, replacing the silence with animalistic growls that rumbled through the building, shaking it to its core. The officers behind him had morphed into something grotesque. They were no longer human. It's coming for you. The girl screamed, voice rising in pitch as terror consumed her. Time froze, heartbeats lingered, and the unthinkable happened. The shadows lunged. Run! He shouted, grabbing the girl's hand, propelling them toward the window, feeling her small fingers slip through the spaces of panic, gripping tight. Would they make it? Would they escape? As they neared the glass, something snagged at his ankle, pulling him back with an icy grip. The darkness had teeth, and it was hungry. The night was not done with them yet. What would it take to break free from this nightmare? And was there more to the girl's warning than he dared to believe? The officer felt the pull at his ankle tighten, a cold, unforgiving grip that threatened to drag him into the abyss. Panic exploded in his chest. He yanked himself forward, but the darkness was relentless, tendrils wrapping around him like sinister vines. Help! I can't hold on. She cried, her small frame trembling as fear spilled from her wide eyes. Don't let go. He shouted back, forcing himself to fight against the monstrous force binding him. The shadows churned, their guttural growls reverberating off the walls, heightening the chaos surrounding them. This was not an ordinary midnight threat, this was a living nightmare, a creature thriving in despair. That he felt the warmth of her hands slipping away. No! His voice cracked, warping under the weight of desperation. With a roar that shook him straight to his core, he twisted, tearing his leg free, adrenaline surging through his veins like wildfire. He lunged toward the window, the splintering glass glinting like a jagged smile. The lead officer, no longer an ally, sneered at them as he transformed, his form elongating and morphing into something grotesque. Fate has chosen, and you're not escaping this time. Keep moving. He yelled, pushing the girl toward the illuminated hope of freedom. They needed to bolt through that window, shatter the suffocating nightmare behind them. He wasn't going to let the darkness steal her life too. They had to escape together. As she squeezed through the jagged opening, shards of glass grazed her arms, painting her skin with crimson strokes. With a sickening thud, he landed beside her, the moon casting its silver light over their escape. Breathless, they tumbled onto the cold earth, rolling away from the impending storm. But the shadows followed, slithering out from the remnants of the building. Run! The urgency twisted in his gut, merging with unrelenting fear. They sprinted into the night, the metallic scent of blood lingering in the air, a reminder of the horrors left behind. The darkness hissed, rabid and insatiable, seething against the edges of their vision. What do we do now? She whimpered, her voice shaky, holding his hand as if it was a tether to sanity. The terror in her expression was palpable, feeding his anxiety. They'll find him, the girl gasped, frantically looking around for anything that could offer salvation. My brother, he's our only chance. If we can get to him. He shot her a look, torn between hope and an overwhelming sense of impending doom. You think he can help us? What if he's no? She cut him off, an edge of desperation in her voice. He's not like them. He's strong. But we have to hurry. The shadows throbbed in the distance, the haunting growls vibrating through the ground, a reminder that they were not free yet. Time was running out, and with every frantic pulse of his heart, he could feel the dark weight of realization, a truth far darker than he had anticipated. Where is he? He demanded, urgency thrumming between them. She hesitated, a flicker of doubt clouding her eyes. The old clock tower on Craven Street. He'll be waiting. Then that's where we're going. He pushed forward, dragging her with him, heart racing as adrenaline sharpened his senses. They veered around corners, shadows at their heels, relentless in their pursuit. Suddenly, a shriek shattered the night, echoing off the buildings. Stop! The voice was twisted, an abyss of anger unfurling before them. He glanced back, fear clawing at his chest. The lead officer was no longer alone. His grotesque form was joined by more, a twisted army of nightmarish figures drawn into the fray like moths to flame. Keep moving! He yelled, yanking the girl closer as they lunged forward, pounding feet echoing on the pavement, but dread loomed. The clock tower loomed in the distance, its shadow stretching across their path. Would they reach it in time? Or would the darkness claim them before dawn broke? Don't look back. Just run. He pressed forward, gripping her hand tighter, desperation igniting a new fire within him. They were alive, but for how long? As breath left him in gasps, anger surged. Would they find safety? Or was the fight just beginning? And in that moment, the darkness roared, a chilling reminder that the clock was ticking. They dashed through the narrow alleyways, the flickering street lamps casting fleeting shadows that danced and flickered like fading hopes. The clock tower on Craven Street loomed ahead, a silhouette against the inky black sky, its hands frozen in time, a gruesome reminder of what they might soon lose. Faster! He urged, ignoring the burn in his lungs and the chaos swirling behind them. The sounds of pursuit echoed, a cacophony of guttural growls and menacing laughter. Each step reverberated against the damp pavement, a heartbeat racing towards the unknown. What if he's not there? She cried, fear clawing at her voice. What if we're too late? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. But he couldn't afford doubt. He will be. His voice rang with a determination that scorched away his own fear. He has to be. As they rounded the corner, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and muscular, with an air of fierce protectiveness. Relief washed over him like a surge of cool water. There! He shouted, dragging the girl towards the man. Her brother stood before them, her beacon in the tempest. What took you so long? Her brother growled, eyes flashing with concern. I sensed something was wrong. We need to move. Right behind us. He gasped, glancing back, the terror in his chest boiling toward panic. The brother wasted no time. Get in! He barked, motioning them towards the door of the clock tower. The heavy wood creaked as they forced it open, an ancient guardian allowing entry to potential saviors. They rushed inside, the air stale, thick with dust and secrets. The walls vibrated with an eerie resonance, like the ticking of a clock long forgotten. Shadows coiled around them, whispers of the damned echoing in the stillness. Lock it! The brother urged, helping the girl shut the door behind them with a heavy thud that sent tremors through the floor. What do we do now? She stammered, her vulnerability stark under her brother's fierce glare. Hold tight, her brother replied, eyes narrowing. We get ready to fight. They won't let us go that easily. He reached for something behind a stack of old crates, an imposing weapon that gleamed ominously. Are you sure about this? She hesitated, glancing at him with the depth of connection only siblings could share. But something in her brother's stare silenced her doubts. Before he could answer, the door shuddered violently, splinters flying as the darkness clawed to break through. "They're here!" he shouted, raising the weapon. The shadows flowed into the room like a living entity, a wave of darkness undulating and writhing. The air hissed with malevolence, the laughter growing louder, mocking their feeble attempts at survival. They were not safe, not yet. "Get to the tower's clock mechanism. We need to move it, use it as a diversion," the brother commanded, urgency threading through every word. They sprang into action, the ticking of the ancient clock morphing into a frantic heartbeat. He rushed to the mechanism, brushing aside layers of dust that whispered tales of sorrow. With a swift motion, he began to turn the gears, feeling the vibrations hum beneath his palm, trembling with ancient power. "Come on," the girl urged, her eyes wide, heart racing. The darkness banged against the door, furious and implacable, like a storm ready to unleash chaos. That he felt the adrenaline ignite inside him as the clock began to chime, echoes saturating the night, drowning out everything else. "This is it. We can buy ourselves some time." The first chime resonated through the air, shaking the very ground beneath their feet, but the second resulted in a powerful backlash. Something in the shadows faltered, momentarily retreating. "Do it again," her brother commanded, fury and desperation mingling in his voice. The darkness hissed now, frustration oozing from the walls. More chimes erupted, each one adding to the momentum, like bullets firing a warning. But just as he reached for another pull of the lever, a clawed hand broke through the door, a face twisted as a grotesque mask, glinting teeth ready to taste fear. "Go! I'll hold them back," her brother yelled, tension splintering in the air, a hero amidst calamity. Heart pounding, he hesitated. "No." But the atmosphere thickened, forcing him into motion. "Now!" her brother barked. "Get out!" And in that terrifying moment, desperation surged as he grabbed her hand once more, dragging her toward the dark stairwell spiraling above, a possible salvation waiting in the shadows. As they ascended, the distant roars grew louder, melding into a horrific symphony of chaos crashing against their resolve. Could they truly escape? Or had they just traded one nightmare for another? Further still into the creature's maw, the chimes reverberated against the walls as they ascended, each echo a reminder of their tenuous grip on life. Would they find a way to conquer the looming terror, or was this labyrinth the final stage of their twisted game? And then, just as hope flickered, the door to oblivion loomed not far behind. They bolted up the dark spiral staircase, the worn stone steps crumbling beneath their feet. The air grew colder, wrapping around them like a shroud. With each upward step, the echoing roars of the beasts pulsed behind them, a sinister heartbeat thrumming in sync with their racing hearts. "Can't stop," he panted, dragging her with all his strength. Her delicate hand felt fragile in his, but they had to keep moving. Hesitation was a luxury they couldn't afford. The darkness writhed below, clawing at the tower's base with teeth of shadows. I can't breathe," she gasped, her breath hitching, the panic spreading in her chest. Every rattle of the door beneath them made it feel like the ground might swallow them whole. "Don't look back. Just focus on the top," he shouted, surprising even himself with the ferocity in his voice. Fear surged within him, threatening to consume his resolve, but he wouldn't let it. Not now. At the edge of his vision, he caught flickering movement, something darting just below the stairwell. A flash of claws, another grotesque face that sent a shiver crawling up his spine. They were closing in, gaining on them. "Why isn't this stairway ever ending?" she cried, her voice tinged with desperation. "Because it's old, and we need to trust it. The clock, it's the key." He didn't know if he was trying to convince her or himself. They had to find that mechanism, use it again. But the continued chimes of the clock were fading, elusive echoes swallowed by the foreboding silence that lay ahead. As they reached a landing, the air shifted. A faint glow peeked through a heavy doorway further up, threading fingers of light into the shadows surrounding them. He could feel the warmth radiating into the chill, the siren call of hope and safety. "Look!" he urged, pointing towards the glowing beam. She squinted, a glimmer of determination igniting in her eyes. "Let us go." They rushed towards the door, every instinct screaming to keep moving. But as they lunged for the handle, the floor beneath them jolted. A violent tremor shook the tower. The door vibrated with an ominous knock, a warning that something was wrong. "This isn't good," she stuttered, her grip tightening around the doorknob. He could feel the tremors shifting from the ground to his bones. "We have to open it." With one swift movement, he shoved the door open, and they stumbled inside a vast chamber. Glistening gears and cogs surrounded them, a complex clockwork system beating with life. The grand clock loomed at the far side of the room, its hands paused at midnight, shadows swirling around its frame. It was beautiful in a sinister way, a tower of time suspended in chaos. "Where do we go?" she asked, looking around wildly, the ghostly luminescence illuminating her taut features. "Over there." He gestured toward a massive lever protruding from the wall, an apparent last resort against what loomed outside. A chilling laugh danced through the air, thickening with dread. They turned, and the darkness surged into the room, twisting and coiling like a serpent, pulsating with hunger. Hidden eyes gleamed maliciously, and with a roar, the shadows erupted, surging toward them, as if the very night had come alive. He swallowed hard, terror clawing at his throat. "We can't stay here." They ran, the Herculean resolve of his sister's brother echoing in his ears. He reached the lever, fear bubbling within him as he yanked it down. The clock groaned, gears grinding in protest, but something began to move. "Come on. Start spinning," he yelled, adrenaline fueling every inch of exertion. As the mechanism turned, a pulse of light shot through the room. The chimes erupted, blaring like a war cry. All around them, the shadows recoiled, screaming in fury, but they pressed on, pushing until a rift of light burst from the clock. Then, just as hope surged anew, everything went still. The shadows froze, their ire held at bay, and a figure emerged from the darkness, a predator cloaked in malevolence. A low voice rumbled, dripping with twisted contempt, "You shouldn't have come here. Was there no escape? Could darkness truly claim them, or was the anchor of time their only hope?" With the roars of a new nightmare looming close behind, he faced the creature, heart pounding, knowing that this was only the beginning of a fight that might just end all of them. Would the clock save them, or manipulate their fate into something much worse? The air crackled with menace as the creature stepped forward, its shape gradually becoming clearer, a monstrous figure that seemed to absorb the very darkness around it. It towered over them, a grotesque amalgamation of nightmares, sharp claws tapping against the cold stone floor. It was like staring into the heart of fear itself. "Move!" he shouted, pushing the girl behind him as he stepped forward, heart thundering like a hammer against steel. Whatever this monstrosity was, he wouldn't let it take them. He wouldn't let the shadows win. With every ounce of courage, he lunged toward the glowing clock mechanism. "We'll use it against you." His voice rang with defiance, fueled by adrenaline. The creature released a chilling laugh, its voice a mocking echo, spinning through the chamber and sending shivers down his spine. "You think a relic can save you? You will join the countless souls trapped in this forsaken tower." A sudden wave of darkness surged towards them, crashing like a tidal wave formed from their worst fears. The girl frantically grabbed his arm, fear pooling in her eyes. "What are we going to do?" But he couldn't afford to falter. "Keep it still, I'll activate the clock." He turned back to the mechanism as it buzzed violently, gears spinning wildly under his command. Light flooded from the clock, illuminating the lurid shadows circling them like vultures. The creature snarled, its eyes narrowing as it felt the pulse of the clock's light. "You can't contain me," it bellowed, lunging forward as if to swallow them whole. "Pull the lever with me," he shouted over the roar, adrenaline surging through him. She looked confused but nodded, gripping the lever with trembling fingers. Together, they pulled downward with desperate resolve. The clock erupted with an ear-splitting chime, its hands whirling wildly, and the entire room shook. A burst of light exploded from the clock, striking the creature directly. It howled in agony, a sound twisted with fury, as the shadows around it began to dissolve, whisked away like mist in the sun. "Come on," he urged, feeling the weight of darkness shift. The flickering light poured outwards like an exclamation mark against the bleakness, expanding until it enveloped them both. With a final, furious scream, the creature collapsed into a whirl of shadows, dragged kicking and screaming back into the void. As its screams died away, the room settled into a serene quiet, the heavy darkness retreating entirely, leaving behind a calm stillness. They were free, panting, heart racing. He turned to the girl. Tears streamed down her cheeks, a blend of terror and relief lighting up her face. We did it." "Yes," he shouted, pulling her into a fierce hug, clinging tightly as if afraid to let go. "You were incredible. Together, we did it." But the victory was bittersweet. Behind them, the clock continued its rhythm, whispering a reminder of the horrors they'd encountered. "We need to leave," he said, glancing back at the ominous clock. "Before it starts again." Together they fled through the door, pushing past the cold shadows that lingered nearby, braving the stairs they had once climbed in fear. Stepping outside, they gulped in fresh air, relief sweeping over them like a warm sun breaking the dawn after a long night of terror. The streets of East LA remained silent, the chaos that had engulfed them now a haunting memory echoing in their chests. "Where's your brother?" he asked, scanning the area for any signs of danger. "He's waiting for us at the park," she exclaimed, her face lighting up, hope rushing back like a tide. They dashed toward their new destination, side by side, adrenaline still humming through their veins. As they reached the park, her brother emerged from the shadows, eyes alight with urgency. "Thank God you're safe," he said, rushing forward to embrace her. "What happened in there?" "It was a nightmare," she sobbed, leaning into him. "But we made it, you were right, we're together." He stood back slightly, letting them embrace. Relief flooded through him, a sense of closure wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Though the night had tested them, they had faced horrors and yet emerged stronger. The clock tower, with its haunting presence, faded into the background, but the bond between them felt unbreakable, forged in trust and shared terror. "It's over," he whispered softly, more to himself than anyone else, as they looked back at the silhouette of the clock tower, feeling the weight of a chapter closing behind them, knowing they had survived its dark grasp, ready whatever would come next. "Let us go home," the brother murmured, looking into the distance as dawn began to break, flushing the sky with hues of soft gold, and finally, as the last shadows of the nightmare slipped away, the new day heralded hope. Stay vigilant, because you never know where darkness will creep back in. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this wild ride. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement makes all the difference.